Come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Come ye to Bethlehem.
Welcome back everyone, my name is Kylie and I'm the Acrylic Crafter, bringing you guys today Craftmas Day 3. For today's video, I'm planning on doing a super trendy type of video idea, and it's going to be the Pillsbury tree cookies, but I'm gonna make them fake. They will be super adorable, like decorating this holiday season. You can put them anywhere, like in your kitchen or even at a hot cocoa bar on display. So if you are interested in making some of these fake Pillsbury tree cookies, then let's get started. So for the sugar cookies, we are going to be making them out of salt dough. So of course you are going to need some salt and also some flour, a bowl to mix in, a measuring cup, a whisk to incorporate the salt and the flour, and last but not least, your cookie cutters of choice. Today for Craftmas Day 3, I'm going to be using the round cookie cutter. For the salt dough recipe, it's actually equal parts. So the amount of flour that you add is going to be the amount of salt that you need. The recipe is totally customizable, so you can use a half a cup all the way to as many cups as you want, for example, like 5 cups. I'm going to start with 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of salt to see how much of each ingredient I have. Now we are going to mix the flour and the salt together. Make sure it's nice and well incorporated. Once this is all mixed, you are also going to need a cup of nice warm water. And what we are going to do is slowly pour it into here while we mix, and just kind of start mixing that in with the salt and the flour. If you notice, while adding in the water, it will start clumping up and forming a dough. If you add too much water, it won't turn out to be a dough, so make sure you go very gradual while adding in the water. For this step, I even recommend going in with your hands. This step is optional. I have some cinnamon and I'm going to add that into my dough mixture because it gives it a nice smell, especially for the holidays. And the cool thing about adding cinnamon is you don't have to worry about attracting bugs because it's actually a bug repellent. So you have a good smelling fake bake that doesn't go bad, so it won't like rot or anything, and it repels bugs. So it's a really nice item to add into salt dough in my opinion. Plus adding cinnamon gives it a nice warm color. My dough is pretty much formed, but so I don't make a mess, I'm going to move my table runner. Make sure you mix the cinnamon in very well, or else you'll have like these cinnamon pockets that will hold air. And we don't want our salt dough to crack while in the oven. And just like that, we have some salt dough. For the fake Pillsbury trees, we are just going to take the dough and roll it out nice and smooth, but also kind of thick, like the Pillsbury cookies. I say about that thick, and then we are going to take the cookie cutter and cut out our little cookie shapes. If you wanted to, you can even flatten it a little bit more, like it's been in the oven and it kind of deflated a little bit. Take a baking sheet, transfer the little pieces of dough onto the baking sheet. And then if you want, you can just go around and smooth the edges so they look like they have been baked. cookies, I had an idea. This is a little bit of the extra dough just so I can show you guys what the idea is. My plan for these cookies is once they are out, I was going to paint on the little trees like the Pillsbury. But if you have any item in your home that has a mini tree, you can kind of use it as an imprint. For example, this is a cookie jar and it has a little tree on the top. So if you take the little tree and the piece of salt dough, you can kind of just press it on there lightly and it creates a tree imprint. So just take the tree and press it into the dough, and then you have the mini tree stamped on the dough. That way, when you go through and paint it, you have a little stencil and it'll be a little more precise and realistic. So I'm just going to take the little dough pieces and press a little tree in the center. This is about what they will look like, just you will have a faint tree pattern. And then go through and do that for all of the cookies. You can even go and slightly press down on them with your hand so that there won't be much of an indent and it'll look more flat. But you will still have the design of a Christmas tree. And there you should have your cookies ready for the oven. Preheat the oven to 300 degrees. While the salt dough is still soft, before you bake it, if you want to turn it into an ornament, you can just take a straw and poke a hole through the salt dough. That way, once it's done baking, you have a hole that you can tie a string or a ribbon through, and then you can hang it on your tree. Once your oven has been preheated, pop in your salt dough for 45 minutes up to an hour. When doing larger items like the gingerbread cookies yesterday, I put them in the oven for about an hour, but since these are a little smaller, I'm gonna put them in for 45 minutes. These are what the Pillsbury cookies look like, and the actual sugar cookie part has like an ivory and yellowy tint to it, so I'm going to use a bunch of different shades to kind of mix up the right sugar cookie color. We have Antique Parchment and Sunny Day by Apple Barrel with Cinnamon and Linen from Folk Art. Make sure you mix enough paint so that you can actually do quite a few coats on each of your cookies. I think that's a good color. So now just go through and start painting the cookies. A little tip that I have for painting these cookies is actually to paint around the edges of the cookie while you're pinching the back side and the front side. And then once you have the edges of the cookie done, you place it down on the parchment paper and then just gently paint the top. That way you're less likely to get a bunch of excess paint on your fingers while you're crafting, and it'll be neat and easier this way. I'm not too concerned about the back of the cookie, so it's okay if only one coat goes on here and it's not fully covered. I'm more concerned about the front, but I'm going to flip them over and give all the backs of the cookies a nice base coat. I'm actually even going to do one more super light coat just around the edges to make sure that there's no salt dough peeking through. And then once all the edges are done, I'm just going to lay them on their back so that I can start painting the Christmas trees while the sides are drying. For painting on the Pillsbury Christmas trees, I have 3 shades of green paint and 1 shade of red that I'm going to use. I'm going to use the shade Bright Red for the ornaments and the star, and a mixture of these 3 green shades for the actual Christmas trees. I'm even going to add a drop of Caribbean because it looks like the green trees for Pillsbury have a slight blue or cooler tone tree, but they still have the yellow tones, so I'm going to add in the lime and then a deeper color just to darken it a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. Now I'm just going to go follow the shading I have and paint the trees. just like that, this is what the first coat of green paint looks like. Now we are going to go in with the red. I'm just going to use the end of my paintbrush to dip in the paint and then dot it on the actual cookies. Remember, when actually adding your dots and all the details on these, it's not meant to be extremely perfect because they are cookies, so if you make a few mistakes, that is totally okay. I'm going to ever so carefully use a fine brush and try to paint on some stars. Just trust the process. This is about what they are looking like right now, but the next step, we will bring them to life. Now we are going to bring these puppies to life. You are going to need like a golden brown type of color, or I'm just going to mix these two shades. These two colors of paint will give these cookies the exact effect if you were going to bake them, and how the color of the dough would start to turn golden brown in the oven. So what we are going to do is put a dot of the darker brown shade, and to make it golden, we are going to add a drop of this yellow color. Mix the two together. Now this is the key part. You are going to need some floater. And what floater does is it helps with shading. So we are going to put a bunch of floater on this side. And you are also going to need a sheet of paper. And with all of that, you are going to need an angled shading brush like this. So what you do is you saturate the brush in the floater, and once it's in the floater, you can wipe off the excess liquid onto the paper. And then you are going to dip the bottom corner of the brush into the color. So it should look like this. And then with the paper, then you go in and you get most of the excess paint off. So then it starts getting light like this. And that's when you will go in and start shading your cookies. And you brush that all the way around. And then from the front, you can see how it starts to look golden brown. You just keep repeating those steps all the way around the cookie. And then you can even take some shading if you want, and then highlight like underneath the parts of the tree like this. And just like that, your cookie is shaded. As you can see the difference between a non-shaded and shaded one. For the shading on my cookies, what I have done is I shaded all around the edges, and then on the tree, I shaded this side underneath the branches, and then this side on the front part of the cookie here. And then I repeated that with all the cookies, and now they are all shaded. I think now I'm also gonna go in and shade the green on the trees, just so that it gives it a little bit more definition. For the tree, I shaded all the branches on this side and then the bottom, and this is about what the cookies are going to look like. Just finish doing that for the rest, and then let all the shading dry. these are the finished cookies.
All ye faithful, joyful and triumphant, come ye, come.